So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, today I'm going to share with you uh, some retro computer stuff I had ordered online and it arrived, and I'm going to open these before you guys. Well, I have checked it once already, but now I am opening it again with you. This is Pentium-III microprocessor. Let me zoom it so that you can see it properly. It's not working. Dear viewers, as you can see, it is a 450 megahertz Pentium-III with a 512K cache and 100 bus, and the manufacturing year on it is written as 1998. So it's a Pentium-III microprocessor, as you can see, and in Pentium-II there was no heatsink fan, but this slot 1 microprocessor has the heatsink fan and the shiny genuine Intel hologram. As you can see, there is another hologram here, and it's a slot 1 microprocessor, as you can see from here, and this is a 3-pin connector. And now we come to the motherboard. I am going to open it. These components are really hard to find nowadays, because these are almost 20 to 25 years old. Now, as you can see, that it is Intel 440BX2 motherboard. I had Intel 440BX chipset in the IBM PC 300 Pentium-II, which I shared with you guys, but that do not support more than 380 something RAM, whereas this motherboard supports 700 plus megabytes of RAM. 3 to 56 megabyte ST-ROM kits may be supported into it. And if I can zoom it, so this is the 440BX2 chipset, and here is, I think it's serial number. I'm not sure what this components of serial number means. I had once read somewhere. So this is the slot 1, where we may insert up to Pentium-III microprocessors with some socket converters and custom made BIOS. You can also attach Pentium-IV microprocessors with this motherboard. I remember a socket 478 to slot 1 converter, which you may obtain from like AliExpress and other websites. So this motherboard has 3 RAM slots, which supports max of 256 in each, and this is the chipset. And also we have 2 IDE controllers, dual mode, and 1 floppy disk controller. This is the old 20-pin power connector. There was no CPU power connector in those days, and this is the fan connector, and 1 fan connector is here, the CPU fan connector. And as you can see that it has 1 AGP slot which support up to 4x AGP cards, and it has these 4 PCI slots coupled with 2 ISA slots, old and gold ISA slots, where you can attach a lot of old cards, especially the Vibra sound card, and the BIOS battery cell is not available in it. And this is the BIOS configuration jumper. As you can see that this is a BIOS configuration jumper, and the SMSC chip, old and gold. And this is there are different jumpers may be connected to these according to the configuration, as well as aux and CD and etc. cards, and very large size capacitors. But this motherboard has very good quality capacitor that I have personally used this motherboard for around 7-8 years, and then I sold it out. So now I have got it again from an online website. I ordered it. Let us check the ports available in this motherboard. The PS/2 mouse and keyboard, the USB 1.0 ports. You can see 2 serial ports. It has 1 parallel port, and this is the game joystick port, which used to come with up to I think Intel 810i motherboard with the sound above the sound ports. These are the sound ports. There is no built-in VGA in this because this used to be a high-end card. Like all the X series card used to be high-end of Intel X series, like 58X was for first generation of i7s, BX58SO, I remember. So similarly 440BX was a high-end card of 1998. So that is that. I'll make a video of assembling this motherboard. Now let's check with the other hardware I purchased from different sources, including OLX, eBay, Amazon and AliExpress, etc. Different parts from different websites, because these are very old parts and very hard to find and expensive of course as well. So first I would like to share this AGB, I think 1X or 2X Maxtor card, and yes, this is year 2000 manufacture. It is Matrox card and assembled in Thailand, and it has only 2 VGAs and it has only 8 megabyte of video memory. So these cards are very hard to find, so because it is AGP 1X or 2X card. You can see there is a cable going out from the heatsink. I think it's the temperature sensor which is attached to this. So this is the first classic card I ordered. This is another card, and it is of 256 megabyte video memory with 256 megabyte of video memory, and it is AGP 8X, and it supports Windows 98 has its drivers. I forgot its model number, although I checked it on forums, and so it has Hynix memory chips, and there must be some year code on it. Let me check, maybe, but it's not showing. It's made in Taiwan, and this is its serial number, as you can see. So this is an OEM NVIDIA card, I believe. Oh yes, this is its model number. This is a gigabyte card with NVIDIA chip, you can see, and GVN4C128T. So it has 128 megabyte of video RAM actually. So yeah, I forgot it is AGP8X. And although I bought this card for 865 Intel GB motherboard, but I couldn't get that motherboard yet. Now I'm searching and I'll get that board inshallah. Now another card which I ordered was Adoptic SCSI to IDE card. So SCSI hard drives are a bit faster, and the retro operating systems like Windows 95, 98, 2000 all support the this special Adoptic SCSI card. This is an old SCSI card from 1997, I guess. I've read it somewhere. There was a date code on this. This was made in year 1997, but Windows 98 and Windows 95 second edition, the Windows 97, has built-in driver for this SCSI card, and SCSI hard drive is a bit faster than the IDEs. So I saw it on some forum, online website, and I ordered. And this is an ATI Radeon ATI 32 megabyte VGA graphics card. This is a basic graphics card. As you can see, ATI Radeon Ultra basic graphics card, which we may use for retro gaming and building the PCs. So these were few retro parts which I ordered online, and they arrived, and inshallah soon I'll be assembling the 440BX2 Windows 98 computer. So I have shown you already 440BX in IBM PC, and now inshallah I'll be assembling 440BX2 with a Pentium-III microprocessor. I have already made a Pentium-II computer video which I shown you, so now I'll share with you the Pentium-III. Okay dear viewers, now I am going to assemble the Intel 440BX2 with the Pentium-III. As you can see that this is the Pentium-III microprocessor, which I am socket 1, which I'm going to fix it carefully into it. You have to be very gentle while setting it, not to harm the golden fins of the microprocessor. Make sure it's properly seated. So now we are going to attach the fan connector. So here I got two PC133 and one PC100 RAM. Let me zoom it. Yes, so it is empty, 256 megabyte, 100 megahertz RAM that I'll be using in it. The other is the Infineon, and this is PC133. The empty was PC100, and this is also 256 megabyte. Although I have another 256 MB chip, but I'll use only 512 megabyte of RAM. That is more compatible with Windows 98. Above 512 you have to change certain files that I don't want to do. So here I am going to insert the RAM. It is always a fun to assemble retro computers. Now I'm going to put the other one. For some reason I remember these works in RAM slot 2 and 3, not in 1 and 2. I'm not sure about this, but we are going to insert in 2 and slot 3. So now we have 512 megabyte of RAM in it. As you can see, I have inserted the RAM and also the microprocessor is perfectly seated. Well, this I have shown you earlier, that I'm going to insert the gigabyte 128 MB video memory graphics card. It has NVIDIA chip on it. When I'll install Windows 98, we'll see the exact model. So this I'm going to insert in some PCI slot. Here first I have to put this motherboard on either in some empty casing or on some sort of thing, so that this card can be attached. And the power supply is left. The hard drive is yet to be attached with it. I got this old IDE cable as well, which I'm going to attach with it. And I forgot to tell you about the Yamaha sound card. This is a very nice sound card. As you can see, built-in sound card, although it don't have a VGA, but it has a Yamaha sound card built-in chip. And also the version number on this motherboard used to be very important, because different version number support the max processor speed differently. So the version number is very important in 440BX2 motherboard. And I think I also haven't shown you this SE440BX2 is the model number of this motherboard. Okay, so now let me put this board into some casing or onto some motherboard plate so that I can attach all of the things. And let me bring the hard drive as well as the power supply and the keyboard, PS/2 keyboard and mouse, and then I'm going to restart this video. So I have put it the motherboard onto a box, and I have inserted the VGA card, graphics card, into the GB slot, and I have attached the IDE cables, primary and secondary, and I have attached a Seagate 7200 RPM 40 GB IDE hard drive with it. And now I am going to attach the PS/2 mouse, the PS/2 mouse, as you can see, and the PS/2 keyboard as well. You can see it's a Dell PS/2 keyboard that I will be going to attach with it shortly. So I'll be using a Dell power supply. It is the Dell GX 240 PSU. As I can zoom and you can see, I think it is 250 watt power supply. That is, as you can see, it's 250 watt power supply. That is more than enough for the tasks. Hardware attached to this computer. So this old and gold power supply. So dear viewers, as you can see, I have powered on the Pentium-III. I have attached primary and secondary drives, and as well as a DVD-ROM, which I'm just will show you a bit later. So as you can see, I have attached DVD RAM. Now it always gives a floppy disk drive error, so I am booting it from the CD. Windows 98 setup was quite hard as compared to nowadays setup. So it has 3 options, as you can see. One is to start Windows 98 setup from CD-ROM. We can't just start setup, I have to format the drive. Okay, I'll start it with CD-ROM support. So I have selected this. I have pressed option 2, and now it is starting with the help of the CD-ROM. So I booted it. Okay, so as you can see, the Windows 98 DOS prompt is here. Now I have to format the drive. So first I am going to check the hard drive information by typing fdisk. So now it is asking me to enable large drive support. I will, because I have 40. Your computer has NTFS partition, which may require large drive support. Systems such as Windows and okay, so I have used this hard drive with an 845 Pentium-IV, compact Pentium-IV. So first let me check the display information. Okay, it has only one partition that is formatted with the NTFS. So I have to delete this partition, then press escape to exit. Now as you can see, these are the 4 options in fdisk, and I am going to delete the partition, and I have clicked option 3. Now it is giving me another 4 options: delete primary DOS, extended DOS, logical DOS drives in the extended DOS, or the non-DOS. Actually the FAT16 and FAT32 used to be considered as DOS partitions, primary or extended, or logical in the extended, but because it is NTFS, new technology file system, that will be considered as non-DOS partition. So I am going to select option 4, and I have clicked. So it is asking for confirmation. Data in the deleted non-DOS partition will be lost. Yes. Reconfirmation, and I'm going to press yes. Okay, now the non-DOS partition is deleted. Now my hard drive is empty. I have to press the escape key. Now I'm going to create a DOS partition. So I'll select option 1, create DOS partition or logical DOS drive. Now I have to create a primary DOS partition. So I'll select option 1, and now the verifying this drive integrity check will go on for a long time, because it's a 40 GB hard drive. And first I am going to create partitions, and after creating the partitions I have to full format it. I can't just quick format it, because in Windows 98 in DOS partitions you have to perform a full format. I'm going to show you the DVD-ROM. This is the, let me zoom it, it's not getting zoomed. It is a super multi LG drive. We're using the Dell power supply, as you can see. So it is still going on, the drive integrity test. So as you can see, the more than 2 decades old computer is working just fine, and you can get these components from different sources at different price. I may make another video of how to get these retro parts. I mean, it will cost you around $1,000 US to get all these components. The gigabyte graphics card is around $380, $390. You can have the microprocessor This is a Pentium-III 450 megahertz, around in $200, and the motherboard may be obtained according to its condition. It is fully functional, and no pins or capacitor is damaged into it, so you may get it in around $300. So, and rest of the parts, if you include those parts like SD-RAM, that is pretty hard to find, and these are 256 megabyte SD-RAM chips, and they're really hard to find. So it will around about $800 to $1,000. You can have these components in fully working condition. So, but old is gold, and for collectors, it is a blessing to have this old retro computer working. 440BX2. Still, it is doing integrity check. So let me stop video here, and I'll restart once I'm going to format it. So we are back again. The drive integrity check is completed. Now it is asking, do you wish to use the maximum available drive size as a primary DOS partition and make the partition active? No, I'm not going to do that. I am planning to have a 10 GB primary partition. That is more than enough for Windows 98. So now it will restart doing the drive integrity check. So people who haven't used computers or configured the desktop PC's operating system back in the 90s may see how hard it was to set up a new computer. Now you can install Windows or even Fedora or Linux distribution in just few minutes with just few clicks and very few questions to be asked. But in old times you have to do a lot of things to set up your computer. So finally the integrity check, the second integrity check is completed, and now it is asking me for partition size in megabytes or percentage for a primary DOS partition. So I am going to use 10 GB. It is asking me size in megabytes, so I have given 10,550 megabytes, and I'll press enter. Okay, so we got a primary DOS partition. As you can see, 1610551 megabytes. So now I have to make a partition active. So I'll select option 2 to set active partition. So I have selected option 2, and now I'm going to press enter. Okay, so now it is asking enter the number of partition you want to make active. So I'll select partition 1, selected partition 1, and press enter. So now partition 1 is active, means that it's the boot partition, and I have created a primary DOS partition. Now I'm going to create secondary partitions or extended partition. So I'll again select option 1, create DOS partition or logical DOS drive, and now it is giving me option primary DOS partition or create extended DOS partition. So I'll be selecting option 2, extended DOS partition. So again we are going to have this integrity check one more time. It will take time to complete. So as you can see, it is 33% completed and still going on. This was how computing used to be back in 1990s. So this is the microprocessor. It's not that hot like microprocessors from nowadays, although graphics card a bit hot. But not other things are very cool. So the integrity check is 69% complete. It's going on and on. So after the integrity checks, I have created two drives, drive D and E. So I'm going to install some other operating system as dual boot on drive D, and on drive E I'll keep backup. So it took considerable time to make it ready, and still it's not ready. As you can see, all available space in extended DOS partition is assigned to logical drives. So I'll press escape. Now I have to shut down the computer and then restart to full format drive C. This is the next step. Press escape to enter, and this is what the F-disk is telling me. You must restart your system for your changes to take effect. Any drives you have created or changed must be formatted after you restart. So now I have to shut it down and restart it. So we are back on the Windows 98 DOS command prompt again. I have to restart the computer now. So I have restarted it, and I'll again boot it from the CD-ROM. It is showing the gigabytes, graphics card, video RAM, and the Micron electronics. So it takes some time. I don't know why it checks RAM every time. As you can see, it is checking the RAM every time it boots. It checks the RAM. Although I have installed a new BIOS battery into it, I thought it's the BIOS issue, but that's not the issue. So it have checked the RAM, and now it will give me error of floppy drive. Yes, can't find floppy disk drive A. F1 to resume. So I've resumed the system, and now it will boot from the I need to boot the computer from the CD-ROM support. So I'm pressing boot from CD-ROM support. So it is giving me again options. We can't start setup yet. We have to format it. So I'll select option 2, that is start computer with CD-ROM support. So it will give me drive D as the CD-ROM drive. It will install a DOS CD-ROM driver, as you can see. Oh, this time it has given drive F because we have CDE as the partitions we just created, primary and extended. So I'll go to F because we won't find format command here. As you can see, if I type format, it will give me error, bad file or command name. So we have to go to F drive, and from F drive I'll go to change directory CD Win98. That's the setup directory of where you have. So now I will click, actually not click, I'll type format C colon. So I can't type format /Q for C drive because if I do that, Windows will be corrupted, Windows won't be installed. It's asking me, I'll select yes, and now it is formatting. So the formatting is going to take some time, 2-3 minutes I guess. So it used to take a full day for installing Windows on your computer back in those days, fresh Windows, and then it usually takes 4 or 5 hours to set all the apps you want to install because hard drives were a bit slow. The hard drive I am using is 7200 RPM, but in those days 5400 RPM IDE hard drives were common. And however, once you have installed Windows and all the apps, it works pretty smooth, and Windows 98 used to be very stable operating system, as well as the Windows NT, and Windows 2000 was also very stable OS. And I remember at least Windows 98 used to work at least for a year, sometimes for 2 years. Then the computer gets a bit slower, and then you have to format your drive C and reinstall Windows to make it a bit faster. Because although now I'm using 512 megabyte of RAM, but in those times you use like 32 or max 64 MB RAM, standard RAM in your system. So once it is formatted, I'll restart. It looked like when you use retro computer, it looks like that you are sitting in some time machine and visiting past. It's 2 decades old, and PS/2 stuff, AGB, 4X, SD RAM, slot 1 microprocessor, Pentium-2s and Pentium-3s. Now, so ISA slots. I have a sound card, but I haven't installed in it the Vibra sound card, because the Yamaha sound card works pretty well. So still the formatting of drive C is in progress. I think it will take another minute to complete. Here, an injured i7 is sitting here. Injured laptop, which I have repaired. So it's around 96% complete. So it's asking for volume label. I'll label it Win98. So we have formatted drive C, and similarly I'll format drive D and E. Although I may quick format them, those drives, but I'll do a full format because this hard drive isn't used for like 8-9 years, so I'm not sure that it contains bad sectors or not. So I'll full format it, and I'll then continue. So all drives are fully formatted after almost it took 15 minutes, and now I'm going to run the Windows 98 setup. So I've restarted the computer, and same post screen. So it will again check the amount of installed RAM, which is 512 megabytes. So it's a slow post, and I'm not sure why it checks every time the amount of installed RAM. Okay, now it's going to show the floppy drive detection error, although I have disabled it in the setup as well, but it shows this error every time. So we will boot from the CD-ROM. You can see I'm going to boot it from CD-ROM, and I'm going to start Windows 98 setup. Start 98 setup from the CD-ROM. Now the setup is started. First thing it will do, it will check the hard drives for potential errors. The scan disk will run. So So the DOS based driver of discrete error, I think. This is not good. No. Finally it has come. To set up Windows, press enter. To learn more, F1. To quit, F3. So I have pressed enter. This voice is coming from the DVD player. Okay, setup is going to perform a system routine check. Press enter. Now the scan disk will start, I believe. Very strange sound is coming from the IDE DVD player. I haven't used it for like 7 years or so now. So I think it requires some service. If I am unable to install Windows 98 through this DVD player, then I have to copy the setup files on the hard drive, drive E backup, boot the computer with this CD-ROM, and then have to install the Windows 98 from the drive E. That's a lengthy process. I have to take this hard drive to another computer, start that computer, attach it. So discrete error is coming, I think. Okay, so finally the scan disk is started. It's very slow. Reading from CD drive is slow. Scan disk is pretty fast because there are no files stored on the hard drive. I formatted it, full formatted all the drives in it. So as you can see, no drive has errors. So we may continue. Now the setup will start. Windows 98 setup will start. Maybe the driver BIOS is using is not that much compatible with the DVD player, because this DVD player is from 2013, whereas the system BIOS is from 1999. So I think whenever it needs to copy from the DVD player, it will be slow. So once the setup starts, I'll resume. So finally the setup is started, and it's a PS/2 mouse, so I may use it during the setup. If you use a USB mouse in this board, then it works after the Windows is installed. So now it is quite easier, just the next, although it's gonna take some time to install due to some DVD player driver or the DVD player itself fault, as it's working pretty slow. I remember sometimes the setup used to halt in old days, and we used to check it through this numlock, that whether the computer is hanged or it's still working. Although numlock light isn't going off, I believe the setup is still working. Or through the hard drive activity light, you can also guess that whether the setup is working or your computer is halted. So I think it's going to take some time. So here we go. It's asking me for the directory. checking for installed components. Now it will ask for the key. So asking for type of installation, I always select custom and select all the components, because Windows 98 takes like 300-400 megabytes on full install, not more than that. So here we are selecting each and everything. Online services, system tools, web TV, you have to go to details. I have to select wave top. Okay. So we have to make sure that everything is selected. Going to press next. And now it is asking for computer name, which is not that much important because I'm not going to use this computer for the time being, because I have a Pentium-II 440BX2. I'll just keep it in my collection, and I'll use it if that 440BX IBM PC300 GL malfunction, then I'm going to use this setup as a regular retro computer, but not now. As you can see, this screen is quite similar to current operating systems setup, Windows 10 and XP, etc. So it will take another 26 minutes to install. Okay, the installation from DVD-ROM didn't work because of the driver issue. The DVD-ROM is newer, whereas the BIOS of the motherboard don't make it work properly. So I have repeated all the procedure, plugged out the hard drive from this system and plugged in the hard drive into another system, and copied the setup files on drive E, formatted the root drive, and now although I have booted the computer from the DVD-ROM, however I have initiated setup from drive E, hard drive, and now I am installing it again. Now it will be comparatively faster than the DVD-ROM installation due to driver issue. As you can see, now it is going smoothly without halting or the jitters we were facing last time. Now I'm going to select each and everything from here, multimedia and system tools, as well as the web TV for Windows. Now we are installing from hard drive, so we have no difficulty whatsoever. So here we go. Okay, so I think I just mistakenly touched the AGP card and there was a spark from it. Hopefully it hasn't malfunctioned. I have to shut down and restart the computer. Let's see. So after troubleshooting the card, now I have replaced the mouse position. Unfortunately, I touched the AGP card mistakenly, and it can easily damage the boards. These are very sensitive because this is not tightened into a casing, so it might have resulted into a big trouble. But alhamdulillah, everything seems to be fine. So I am going to again boot the computer from the CD-ROM drive. Okay, now it's not picking CD-ROM drive. I just need to go to setup and to make sure that the first boot device is selected as CD-ROM. So these are the problems, and this is why it takes one full day. It used to take one full day to set up operating system in the 1990s on a computer like this. This is comparatively faster as compared to 1990s. If you were working on Pentium-II or Pentium MMX. Okay, so now we need to go to setup, and I need to check the boot device. First boot device is CD-ROM drive, second is the hard drive, so there shouldn't be any problem. Okay, I think problem is with the IDE driver, that secondary master. It is working on UDMA mode 2, and the drive is, I think, of UDMA mode 5. This is causing a problem. Okay, so here you can see the system information. I am discarding changes and exiting the system. Why this DVD-ROM is not working? I mean, it should work. So let me solve this boot issue, and then I'll continue again the installation. So now I've made few changes into the DVD setting. Let's see if it works. No. So I believe now I have to remove a CD-ROM drive from either the IBM 300GL or the GX240 and to attach with it, and then we may boot into Windows 98. Now I have changed the CD-ROM drive, the CD-ROM drive of GX240, and now I will be still installing from the hard drive. I have booted the computer from the Windows 98 DVD. Now I'm going to run the setup. As you can see, I'm running the setup from drive E. So it will first scan the system drives. So I resume once it finishes the scan disk of all drives. So finally everything is going fine, and the setup is running from the hard drive, although I have booted the computer from the reconfigured CD-ROM drive, and it is now going pretty fast. Let me zoom it. Progress is on 5%, 6%. So now it's going faster, and after a lot of effort, finally setup is going smooth, alhamdulillah. So hopefully it will be installed in 15 minutes. Now it will take 15 more minutes to get ready, and I think after every 5 minutes the screen changes, showing the Windows 98 characteristics. Like now it will change on 20%. You can see, easier to use. Well, yes, it has a lot of enhancement as compared to Windows 95, the predecessor of this operating system. So today, doing this effort, it reminded me of old times when only you can configure your system on the weekend or in summer vacations. It requires a lot of effort, but although there are numerous front-end changes in Windows operating system up to Windows 10, however, we see the kernel of Microsoft Windows operating system have its roots into Windows 9X and even back to 1.0. I mean, you can study the books of Charles Petzold, Windows programming, and you can connect with Mike Stott. I remember I used to email him in my university days when I was studying the course of OS programming. So anyways, I think let's stick to the topic of installing Windows to this. I don't want to go to lecture of Windows programming, which I am teaching nowadays as well to the BA students. So I'll tune back once it is installed. I'll tune back the video. It's finally completed. I'm in first phase of setup. Now it is asking to remove floppy drives. Although I don't have a floppy drive disk drive, I need to remove the Windows 98 CD. So let me remove that. So I have removed the CD-ROM drive so that the computer now will boot from the hard drive. Now it is asking to restart the computer, so let's restart it. Okay, so here we see getting ready to run Windows for the first time screen passed, and now it is asking me for some information which I am going to enter. Okay, now the product key, I'll enter this and resume. Okay, so I have entered the 98 key, and Windows 98 CDs shipped back in 1999 were of very good quality, and I purchased it in year 99. Yes, and it's still working after 21 years. Okay, now the second part of the setup is started, and as you can see, there are 11 more minutes left in the setup. Almost 15 minutes have passed since I started setup from the hard drive. So now it's detecting the non-plug and play hardware, and the system is pretty cool. I mean, the microprocessor is pretty cool. Maybe I'm not sure what's the reason. We see microprocessors today gets very hot, but this microprocessor stays very cool. Slot 1 microprocessor used to be cooler than the socket 370 and M478 socket microprocessors, and then LGA 775, and then we come to the I series of microprocessors. 1156, LGA 1155, and the list goes on up to 10th generation. And nowadays AMD is coming very strong back, like it came in year 2000. It's now coming back and consistently winning the race with its 7nm Zen microprocessor architecture. So let's see if Intel comes back like Intel always did in the past, or it is AMD's time to rock and roll. So second phase of setup is completed, and now the third phase will start, or setting control panel and start menu icons and other things it will set up. We can see the boot time it takes. Due to this RAM checking, it takes a lot of time. Well, I'm not sure, is it because of the BIOS, because or it's because of something else, I'm not sure. So this screen comes again, Windows 98, and this is the third phase of setup. Okay, so this is still 12 minutes it's showing. It will take, I think, more 15 minutes for this phase, and it may restart once, I don't remember. Yes, I think it will restart one more time, and then the setup will complete. Well, when I'm going to configure this system, I'll attach another LAN card and a modem and an ISA-bus sound card with this system, as well as a secondary hard drive with it. But for now, primarily I use the Pentium-II. So just configure the time right. So it is. So now it will take some time in the system configuration. All other steps will be completed fast. However, system configuration is going to take like 5 to 7 minutes or so on this machine. I am using a Dell PS/2 keyboard. As you can see, the Dell PS/2 keyboard and the nice Pentium-III. So now setup is copying web TV for Windows. And then it will go to system configuration, which will take some time, like 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so once the setup is done, I'll come back. So now the last step of the setup stage 3 is started, updating system settings, and as I predicted, it will take another 7 minutes to complete. So it's the last step of the setup, and as I start Windows 98, I come back. So finally setup is completed and Windows 98 is starting for the first time. So now the driver part. So I'm going to install all the drivers and I'll resume once the drivers installation is done. Okay, so that NVIDIA card, graphics card driver didn't work with Windows 98, although I have installed NVIDIA 4000 GX driver for Windows 98 multiple times, but for some reason uh, it was not working and Windows were halting. So I have installed now the Matrox card, original AGP1X or I think AGP2X card, and hopefully this will work. So here we go, the Matrix finally have worked with it. So let's run the DX diag and see the system information, although it's not showing the microprocessor speed, but as you can see that it's the Matrix Millennium G450 dual head graphics card, which I have shown you earlier. I have installed it, rather than the NVIDIA. Okay, so I have installed the Yamaha sound driver and the Matrix driver for Windows 98, and although no apps are installed in it, however, so this was the assembly of a retro computer Intel SE440BX2 with Pentium-III. Yes, I have the user manual of this motherboard downloaded some times ago. Where is the motherboards? Okay, yes. And now as you can see that what speeds of Pentium-III it supports, although there is a technical specification update by which you can see here, which is not possible to open as I haven't installed PDF reader, but it can support processors even above 850 megahertz. However, officially the Pentium-III processor that is supported is 850 megahertz clock speed with 100% 256K cache. And you see, I was telling you about the version number, board revision number, that is here. I have shown you under the card, shown you yesterday. So these are the numbers. So the processor speed is directly related to these numbers. These revision numbers support the microprocessors above 600 megahertz speed, although all board revisions support up to 600 megahertz Pentium-III. All 440BX2 motherboards support this speed, and it also supports Pentium-II and Celeron microprocessors. And the maximum RAM that is supported by this motherboard is 768 MB, and max in one socket is 256 megabyte. Minimum memory is 16 MB to start this computer. So this was a build of Intel desktop board SE440BX2, a retro computer. Not only I have assembled, but I have also installed Windows 98 into it, and I may install apps some other day, and I'll share with you that. Till that time, Allah Hafiz, take care.